Okay, first of all, Pete, how did this new stage version of Quadrophenia come to be?
Well, it's always been on the cards. When I wrote Tommy, which was the complete piece before Quadrophenia in the Who's career, that turned out to be a great vehicle for the Who on the stage. We never thought it would, but it did. It became the centerpiece of our stage show. So when I wrote Quadrophenia, I was very conscious of wanting to write something new. We were fed up with playing Tommy all the time, and so what I wanted to do was to create something that was similar. So, and it didn't work for the band in the same way that Tommy did, because it was more demanding, more complex, more landed in a sense as an idea. And so there was always this sense that there would be a theatrical exposition of it. That didn't happen for a long time. In fact, The Who never played it in its completion on stage until 1996. And of course the film came out in '79, I think. That's 6 years after the album. So it's always been on the cards, and the guys that are doing it, Tom Critchley, the director, and Jeff Young, who is the writer, have been friends of mine for a long time, and they've been the ones that have been most passionate to bring it to the stage and to do it in a rock and roll way. This is not traditional music theatre. It's not even really like Tommy. Tommy was quite safe by comparison to this. We're taking lots of risks with this. It's much more of a company show, much more dangerous. And these Tom and Jeff, I'll have to warn you, they're kind of Marxist circus theatre people. You know, they'd probably be happier juggling chainsaws.
So is the stage the right place for Quadrophenia then, would you say?
Today I think it is, you know, because I think in a sense the stage is a place where we can both receive ideas from an intelligent playwright and be entertained as we do when we come to the theatre, but also project some of our own stuff in. This is my thesis for rock and roll. I think what makes rock and roll different to almost any other art form is there has to be a space in it for us to put ourselves. You know, if you look at an extraordinary artist like Madonna, there's actually not a hell of a lot there. That works incredibly well for her. Of course, if you knew her, then you would know that that was not the case, but for what she presents to the public leaves a space for us. And the great artists always do that, and the great pieces do that. The thing about Tommy that I learned was a good thing is that it was a role that had no heart. It was a kind of a role for all post-war children. Do you know what I mean? To put themselves inside. And I tried to do the same with Jimmy. So here I think the reason why it works well in theatre is because the audience that will come to see it, I hope, well they probably will be because everybody else is dying off, will be a post-war generation. And I think what we in the post-war English generation, British generation, we're in the southwest, so I suppose I can say English, you know, what we have is a common sense of the fact that we did survive a war, but what we turn to deal with the fact that our parents didn't come up with ready answers to what had really gone on was by degrees facile, silly, incredibly engaging and gripping and frightening, and somewhat poetic. You know, that we turn to music, fashion, materialism, and these days a little bit more to politics and ecology, but you know, the mod years followed by the hippie years, it was a lot of drugs and silliness in a sense, but what was behind it was a deep yearning to find answers to how we were going to go forward. And you know, my generation, I don't know that we found those answers yet.
You mentioned the audience. This show opens on Saturday at the Theatre Royal. What do you think the demographic is going to be of the audience? Who's going to come and see this show, do you think?
Well, I can guarantee one thing, and this is my nightmare. I haven't actually woken up sweating, but I probably should. In the front row, right in the front row, will be old blokes of about my age wearing parkas, and next to them will be a young bloke of about my son's age, also wearing a parka, and the old bloke will be telling the young bloke what is right and wrong with our show. That's my nightmare. Oh no, we never did that. No, that dancing, that's not how we did it. I would never have worn shoes like that. Oh my God. That's my nightmare. The demographic, I hope, is going to be quite broad. You know, I think I've been surprised, you know, hanging about the theatre, you know, to have people that I would regard. I'm a little old man now. I could keep forgetting that little old ladies come up to me and saying I was a mod, and kind of go, wow, you know, I hope you come to the show, because I kind of think that Not kind of think. I think absolutely that the people of my age group and maybe a little bit older will get a lot from this, because I think we all went through, you know, that sense of an identity crisis, which I think, you know, a lot of us have kind of latched on to very, very, very basic values, which unfortunately in Britain are not tied to religion. They're not tied to a solid church. We don't, you know, that's not true for everybody, of course, but, you know, we have problems with the world at large now because we don't have the same kind of strong faith and conviction in our religious process as other countries do, particularly Islam. So this play attends to that as well, and the fact that some of these people are kind of, in a sense, going through the motions. Dare I say it, this is one of the things that I love about the West Country, is that we still play the game. We pretend that nothing has changed. We like, you know, you can drive out onto the moors from here and you're in paradise, or if it's foggy, in hell. No, do you know what I mean? You've really got the old values there to take and to embrace if you want them. The proximity to the sea is always a great thing as well. You know, you're reminded that this is life today out in the farms around this area is very much as it would have been 100 years ago. So the farms on the moors, I'm not talking about the agricultural empires, but in a sense that climate is something that we long for. And I hope that audience finds this engaging as well. It's not just for, you know, mods and rockers from Brighton.
It's 36 years since the album first came out, and life being secular, if you like, do you think that the themes and the music in this production are relevant to an audience in 2009?
Well, there are two things. One is that, as The Who's career has proven, the Stones' career and various other rock bands of that era, is that because we were the first of that wave, our music has had the benefit of lasting. The Who could play every day of the year in some place on the planet for the rest of our lives. So the music goes on, but the issues too are echoes of echoes, in a sense. You know, the interesting thing is about the things that the matters that we came across when we were. The mod thing happened at the same time as the change in pop. That's the other interesting conjunction. The mods between 1961 and 64, and that was the time that the Beatles happened here, and I believe the function of pop music changed. You know, my dad was a dance band musician in the Quadrophenia, and I grew up with all that Moon in June, crooning fabulous songs from fabulous shows, romance, dreams, visions, love will come, by fantastic artists like Duke Ellington and Frank Sinatra and Ella Fitzgerald and Sarah Vaughan. You know, fantastic music, rich, wonderful music. Suddenly that offer of that dream didn't work anymore, so we had to invent something new. At the same time, the mods happened, and they were much briefer. In a sense, what's happening now is a similar echo. We get these echoes, generations going back, and they tend to rummage around, don't they? You know, every now and again you'll see a little group, I'm sure it happens in Plymouth, a little group of kids that look like mods, you know, and the Jam revived a mod movement around the time of the movie post-punk, so that was what, 77, 78, and there have been other kind of youth cultures since that echo there. It's all about the way that generational issues echo. Our issues as young people are universal. You know, we grow up, we may love and respect our parents, we may hate them and love them to bits, you know, we may love them and despise them, whatever the tangle is. But what we know is that they never seem to really have the right answer for us, wherever we're born and whatever, and that's all this is about, really.
How closely have you been working with this production? What's your involvement been?
I just tell Keith Moon stories, and then he set himself on fire and threw himself into the swimming pool. I didn't think I was going to have as much to do with this production as I thought. I gave them very much a free rein to do what they needed to do with the book, which is the script, the book and the casting and the construction. And funnily enough, Adrian Vinken at the Plymouth Theatre Royal here has been a fundamental driving force behind getting Quadrophenia on somewhere for nearly 5 years. the first thought was to do it with the army, in the barracks, in a kind of an open, explosive production, which was, like a grand street fight, in which I suppose the army would have really enjoyed getting involved. But I've increased my input recently. I've partly because of being present and enjoying it, but partly because there are issues that need nailing down. The main issue behind Quadrophenia that is a concern is this business of the four. That's where the title comes from, Quadrophenia. And this was less a study of split identity disorder, which I probably knew very little about when I wrote the piece, as much as about the function of the gang. And of course, for me, the function of the gang was a band. Sting once said to Bono, when are you going to get out of that gang you're in, And because being in a band is like being in a gang. So I was very conscious of that and what it had done for me as a young man, how it had given me protection and solace, but also tremendous challenges and competition and power struggles. So the four aspects of Jimmy are the extreme characteristics of his ego, in a sense, that draw him and tear him in different directions, looking for answers. One is very devil-may-care, another is very tough and sure of himself, another just wants to be liked, and another is very deeply romantic and almost like a seeker. And he gets drawn in different directions, and each of those four character aspects is played by a different actor on the stage. So when you come, you have to decide for yourself who you think is going to win, who do you think is going to prevail, and for what reasons, and that's what the journey of the play is. This is the way that Tom and Jeff have conceived it. My role has been, in a sense, rubber stamping that, saying, yes, this is the way it should be, because it's a complicated device.
And has that relationship worked in bringing it to the stage, that almost collaboration, if you like?
Yes. Yeah, whether the producers are completely comfortable today, the people that have got to try and sell the tickets out there and carry the show forward, whether they're completely comfortable is a question. And I think their question, in other words, what they would probably prefer is that Jimmy was one actor played by some famous pop star. So that what you actually had was Justin Timberlake in Las Vegas playing Quadrophenia, sell out. We know. Our fear is that would mean that we in the audience couldn't let this be our story, and that's my passion, because I'm from, as I said earlier, this is my belief in the way that pop functions best, is when we make it our story. Even if it's a song by the Sugar Babes, that it triggers something in us that makes us want to own it and makes it a part of us, so that even though we might only hear it on the radio a few times, it affects us, it sits with us, and it will probably stay with us for the rest of our lives. I've got quite a few songs like that the one that I often mention, the band that's having great success with musicals at the moment, ABBA. I reckon one of the best pop songs ever written is SOS, and it was very much a song. I'm not crazy about all of their stuff, but that one is hugely significant to me, and I'm not quite sure why. It just touched something in me, and whenever I hear it, I get this same sense of, yes, this is how I feel. This is a part of me. It reflects something of my. That's what I hope will happen here. That people that come and see the audience will find themselves in the story. And if you're a doctor from Torquay, if you don't find yourself in the story, I hope you find lots of your patients.
And this must be quite an exciting time for you, 36 years on since the album came out. The film came out in 1979, and now the stage version. This project seems to have some sort of longevity about it.
Yeah, it's a lot of years to wait for that longevity, but this is one. There are pros and cons to being one of the first of the vanguard of modern rock. One is that that we can play all the time and and sell out purely because of curiosity value. Let's go and see if the music was that great, and let's cross our fingers and hope either that they do or they don't die on stage. The con, in a sense, is that we have to wait for our moment. We have to wait for our moment, and a lot of our moments have taken a long time. It would be lovely to be here today with all four members of The Who alive and kicking, but sadly that's not the case.